My marriage is so modern, even our arguments get sponsored content. That's what I was thinking when Isla dropped the bomb that would change everything. "Dean, honey," she said, not looking up from her MacBook, fingers dancing across the keyboard with the kind of confidence that comes from managing million-dollar travel campaigns. "My ex invited me to the Maldives, don't get jealous." I paused mid-sip of my coffee, the bitter taste suddenly matching my mood. "Should I pack your SPF 50 or a lie detector?" Isla Corvin, my wife of 7 years, finally looked up. Her green eyes held that familiar spark of annoyance she got whenever I made one of my sarcastic comments. At 33, she was still stunning in that effortless way that made other men stare and made me wonder what she saw in a freelance videographer who spent most days filming corporate training videos. "It's business, Dean. Jasper's startup is launching a luxury travel app. He needs PR expertise, and I'm the best in the Pacific Northwest." She closed her laptop with a decisive snap. "Besides, it's not like we can afford the Maldives on your documentary budget." That stung, but I kept my expression neutral. 7 years of marriage had taught me to pick my battles. "When do you leave?" "Tonight. Red-eye to Dubai, then connecting to Malay." She was already heading toward our bedroom, probably to pack her collection of barely there bikinis that I hadn't seen her wear in months. I sat there in our cramped Seattle apartment, rain pattering against the windows, watching my wife prepare to jet off to paradise with her ex-boyfriend. Jasper Trennix, golden boy, tech entrepreneur, the kind of guy who wore expensive watches and drove Teslas. Everything I wasn't. My phone buzzed, a text from Mason, my best friend and owner of the dive bar where I spent too many evenings. "Drinks tonight? Jenny's working. Could use the company." I typed back, "Isla's leaving for the Maldives with her ex. Rain check?" "Dude, that's messed up." Yeah, it was. But what could I do? Isla had made it clear that my opinion on her career decisions ranked somewhere below the weather forecast. 3 hours later, she was gone. The apartment felt hollow without her energy, her constant phone calls, her habit of leaving coffee cups on every surface. I wandered into our bedroom and found she'd left her iPad charging on the nightstand. That's when I saw it. A notification popped up, a photo automatically syncing to our shared iCloud account. Isla, radiant in a white sundress, standing on what looked like a pristine beach. But it wasn't just her in the photo. A man's hand rested possessively on her lower back, and I could see the edge of an expensive watch. The same Rolex I'd seen Jasper wearing at Isla's company Christmas party. My hands shook as I scrolled through more photos. Isla laughing over champagne. Isla in a bikini that I'd never seen before. Isla and Jasper's reflection in the mirror of what was clearly a luxury resort room. The timestamp showed they were uploaded just 20 minutes ago. I sat on our bed, staring at the evidence of my wife's betrayal, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not just anger, though there was plenty of that. This was something sharper, more focused. I opened a new message and typed carefully, "Hi, Alara. This is Dean Callix, Isla's husband. I think we need to talk about our spouse's business trip." Jasper Trennix was Jasper's wife, an interior designer whose work I'd admired in local magazines. We'd met briefly at a few social events, exchanged polite small talk about Seattle's weather and the Seahawks. I remembered her as sharp, elegant, with the kind of quiet intelligence that missed nothing. My phone buzzed almost immediately. "I was wondering when you'd reach out. Do we wait or have some fun?" I stared at the message, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about catching our spouses cheating. This was about what came next. I typed back, "Wait, not a chance." Alara suggested we meet at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill, far enough from our usual haunts to avoid running into mutual friends. I arrived first, choosing a corner table with a view of the door. My videographer instincts kicked in, always scout your locations, always have an exit strategy. She walked in exactly on time, shaking raindrops from her dark hair. At 36, Isla Trennix moved with the kind of purposeful grace that came from years of dealing with demanding clients and million-dollar renovations. She ordered a cortado and slid into the seat across from me. "So," she said without preamble, "how long have you known?" "About 18 hours. You?" 3 months. Her smile was razor sharp. "Jasper's not as clever as he thinks he is. Late-night phone calls, mysterious business trips, credit card charges for jewelry I never received, the usual cliches." I pulled out my phone and showed her the synced photos. Isla's always been careless with technology. Ilara studied the images, her expression unreadable. "That's the Soneva resort. Overwater villas start at $3,000 a night." She looked up at me. "Your wife has expensive tastes." "Courtesy of your husband's expense account, I'm assuming." "Oh, I doubt Jasper's paying for this out of company funds. He's smarter than that." Ilara sipped her coffee. "But he did just close a Series B funding round. $25 million. I helped him celebrate by picking out new furniture for his office." The bitter irony wasn't lost on me. While I was scraping together rent money, my wife was living it up in paradise with a man who could drop more on a weekend getaway than I made in 6 months. "What's your end game here, Dean? Confront them when they get back? File for divorce? Take half of nothing?" I studied her face, looking for any sign that this was some kind of test. But Ilara's eyes held the same cold fury I felt burning in my chest. "I want them to feel what we felt," I said finally. "That moment when everything you thought you knew turns out to be a lie. But I want it to hurt more than just emotionally." Ilara smiled, and for the first time since discovering the affair, I felt like I had an ally. "Jasper's company has a strict ethics policy," she said. "Something about maintaining professional boundaries and avoiding conflicts of interest. It's part of their investor agreement. They can't afford any scandals that might affect their valuation." "And Isla's company?" "Travel Lux PR. They represent luxury resorts and airlines. Their whole brand is built on trust and discretion. Clients pay premium rates because they expect their PR teams to be above reproach." I felt the pieces clicking into place. "So if their affair became public knowledge, Jasper would face questions from his board about judgment and leadership. Isla would lose clients who couldn't trust her to maintain professional boundaries." Ilara leaned forward. "But we'd need proof. Real evidence, not just photos that could be explained away as business meetings." Over the next hour, we compared notes. Ilara had been documenting Jasper's suspicious behavior for months, screenshots of deleted text messages, credit card statements, showing charges for expensive dinners and hotel rooms, even a recording of a phone call where Jasper mentioned handling the Isla situation carefully. I contributed Isla's digital trail, the shared photo stream, her browser history showing searches for what to pack for Maldives romantic getaway, and a draft email I'd found in her laptop that started with, "My darling Jazz." "There's something else," Ilara said, pulling out her own phone. "Jasper thinks he deleted these, but he forgot about the automatic backup to our shared Google Drive." She showed me a series of WhatsApp messages between Jasper and Isla, dating back 4 months. The early messages were flirtatious but could be dismissed as friendly banter. But as I scrolled down, they became increasingly explicit. "We can't wait much longer," one of Isla's messages read. "Dean's getting suspicious and I hate lying to him." "Just a few more weeks," Jasper had replied. "Once the funding closes, we can be more open about us." My hands clenched into fists. It wasn't just the affair. It was the casual way they discussed me, like I was an obstacle to be managed rather than a human being whose life they were destroying. "I have an idea," I said, "but it's going to require perfect timing." Isla returned from the Maldives on a Thursday morning, glowing with what she claimed was just a tropical tan. She breezed into our apartment carrying duty-free shopping bags and talking excitedly about the amazing business opportunities Jasper's company was exploring. You should have seen the resort, Dean. It was like something out of a magazine. Crystal clear water, overwater bungalows, the most incredible sunsets. She was unpacking souvenirs, expensive-looking jewelry and silk scarves that I was pretty sure weren't purchased with business funds. Jasper really knows how to treat his business partners right. I'll bet he does, I thought, but kept my expression neutral. Sounds like the trip was productive. Oh, it was. Isla's smile was radiant as she modeled a new necklace in the hallway mirror. We finalized the PR strategy for their app launch. This could be huge for my career. While she showered off her tropical glow, I put the final pieces of our plan into motion. Ilara and I had spent the week carefully crafting our approach, and timing was everything. First, I sent a carefully worded email to Sorrel Hendricks, Isla's boss at Travel Lux PR. Dear Mr. Hendricks, I thought you should be aware that one of your employees may have violated company policy regarding client relationships. I have documentation showing that Isla Corvin has been engaged in a personal relationship with Jasper Trennix while representing his company. This includes accepting expensive gifts and accommodations that weren't disclosed as business expenses. I'm happy to provide evidence if needed. Sincerely, a concerned party. Simultaneously, Ilara sent a similar message to 3 members of Jasper's board of directors, along with copies of the WhatsApp messages and credit card statements. Then we waited. I was editing a corporate training video about workplace harassment. The irony wasn't lost on me when my phone rang. It's happening, Ilara said. Jasper just got called into an emergency board meeting. His assistant looks like she's about to throw up. 20 minutes later, Isla's phone started buzzing. She was in the kitchen making her post-vacation smoothie when she answered. Sorrel? What do you mean, suspended pending investigation? Her voice rose an octave. What allegations? I don't understand. I watched from the living room as my wife's perfect post-vacation mood crumbled. She paced back and forth, her free hand gesturing wildly. No, I can provide documentation for all business expenses. The trip was entirely professional. Who told you otherwise? The call lasted 15 minutes. When Isla finally hung up, her face was pale beneath her Maldives tan. Someone sent anonymous allegations to my boss, she said, slumping onto our couch. They're claiming I had an inappropriate relationship with a client. It's ridiculous, but HR has to investigate. That's awful, I said, not looking up from my laptop. I'm sure it'll blow over once you explain everything. But it didn't blow over. Over the next 3 days, the situation escalated rapidly. Travel Lux PR launched a formal investigation, interviewing Isla's colleagues and reviewing her expense reports. Jasper's board demanded a full accounting of his recent business trips and entertainment expenses. The breaking point came on Monday morning. I was having coffee with Mason at his bar when Ilara texted, "It's time for Phase 2. Meet me at Jasper's office in an hour." Trennix Innovations occupied the top floor of a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel, and the kind of modern minimalism that screamed disruptive startup. Ilara met me in the lobby, carrying a manila envelope and wearing the kind of smile that made me glad we were allies. Jasper's having lunch with potential investors, she said as we rode the elevator up. Perfect timing. The office was buzzing with the usual startup energy. Young employees in expensive casual wear, multiple monitors displaying analytics dashboards, the constant hum of important phone calls. Ilara walked straight to the reception desk like she owned the place. "Hi, Melissa. I need to drop something off for Jasper. It's urgent." The receptionist, a young woman who clearly recognized the boss's wife, nodded quickly. "He's in conference room A with the Meridian Capital team." "Perfect. This relates to their meeting." We walked down the hallway, past glass-walled offices where serious-looking people discussed market penetration and user acquisition costs. Through the conference room's glass wall, I could see Jasper in his element, expensive suit, confident gestures, selling his vision to 3 men in even more expensive suits. Ilara knocked once and walked in without waiting for permission. "Gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to see before you make any investment decisions." Jasper's face went white. "Ilara, what are you doing here?" "Saving these gentlemen from making a very expensive mistake." She opened the manila envelope and spread its contents across the conference table, printed copies of the WhatsApp messages, credit card statements, and photos from the Maldives trip. "My husband has been using company resources to conduct an affair with his PR consultant," she said calmly. "This represents a serious breach of fiduciary duty and could expose your investment to significant liability." The investors leaned forward, studying the documents. I watched Jasper's carefully constructed presentation crumble in real time. "This is a private matter," Jasper said, his voice strained. "It has nothing to do with the company's operations or growth potential." "Doesn't it?" one of the investors asked, holding up a credit card statement. "This shows $15,000 in charges for a luxury resort, charged to the company account. How exactly does that serve your business interests?" Jasper looked at me for the first time, his eyes filled with a mixture of rage and desperation. "You did this. You and my wife." "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "I'm just here to document the moment your life imploded. Smile, Jasper. This one's going viral." The fallout was swift and merciless. By Tuesday afternoon, Meridian Capital had withdrawn their investment offer. By Wednesday, 2 more potential investors had backed out, citing concerns about leadership judgment and corporate governance. Isla's situation wasn't much better. Travellux PR's investigation had uncovered not just the affair, but a pattern of undisclosed gifts and accommodations from clients. 3 major accounts, including a luxury hotel chain that represented 30% of the company's revenue, had already started asking questions about their PR team's ethics policies. I was editing footage in my home office when Isla stormed in, her laptop clutched in her hands like a weapon. "My email access is blocked," she said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "They've frozen my company accounts, my expense cards, everything. Sorrel won't even take my calls." "I'm sorry," I said, and part of me actually meant it. Watching someone's life fall apart, even someone who'd betrayed you, wasn't as satisfying as I'd expected. "Don't!" Isla's eyes flashed. "Don't pretend you care. This has your fingerprints all over it." "I don't know what you mean." The anonymous tip to my boss, the timing, the fact that Jasper's wife showed up at his office with evidence that could only have come from someone with access to our private communications. She set her laptop down and moved closer. "You hacked our accounts, didn't you?" I looked up at her, this woman I'd loved for 7 years, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "I didn't hack anything, Isla. I just paid attention. Something you might want to try sometime." "What's that supposed to mean?" I opened my phone and showed her the shared photo stream, the same images that had started this whole chain of events. "You left your iPad here when you went to paradise with your lover. It was still syncing to our shared iCloud account. Every romantic dinner, every sunset kiss, every moment of your betrayal, automatically uploaded for me to see." Isla stared at the photos, her face cycling through shock, embarrassment, and finally, anger. "So you decided to destroy my career? Ruin everything I've worked for?" I decided to let the truth speak for itself. I stood up, suddenly tired of the conversation. "You made your choices, Isla. You chose to lie to me for 4 months. You chose to use company resources for your affair. You chose to risk both our reputations for a few weeks in paradise." "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said, and for a moment, she sounded like the woman I'd married. "Jasper and we have history. We were together before you and I met. When he reached out about the PR work, it felt like fate." "Fate?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what fate is, Isla? Fate is leaving your iPad connected to our shared account. Fate is Jasper forgetting to delete his backup files. Fate is marrying a videographer who knows how to document everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Isla. Can you meet me at the lawyer's office? We need to discuss next steps. I grabbed my jacket. I have to go. Where? To see a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. The words hit Isla like a physical blow. She sank into my desk chair, suddenly looking older than her 33 years. Dean, please, we can work through this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. I made a mistake, but you made a choice, I corrected. 4 months of choices, and now I'm making mine. Jordan Reeves was the kind of divorce attorney who looked like she'd stepped out of a legal drama. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a reputation for getting her clients everything they deserved. Isla had recommended her, and after 30 minutes in her downtown office, I understood why. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, Jordan explained, reviewing the documents Isla and I had provided. But adultery can still impact property division and spousal support, especially when it involves misuse of marital resources. What kind of resources? I asked. Well, your wife used your shared credit card to purchase clothing and accessories for her affair. She also used her company phone and email for personal communications that violated her employment contract. And according to these bank statements, she withdrew cash from your joint account on multiple occasions, cash that appears to have been spent on gifts for her lover. Isla leaned forward. What about Jasper's assets? That's where things get interesting, Jordan said with a smile that reminded me of a shark. Mr. Trennix used company funds for personal expenses related to his affair. Under Washington law, those funds could be considered community property, subject to division in your divorce, Mrs. Trennix, especially since you provided unpaid consulting services to his company during your marriage. I was starting to understand why Isla had suggested this particular attorney. How long will the process take? Isla asked. With the evidence you've provided, and assuming both parties want to avoid a lengthy court battle, we could have preliminary agreements in place within 60 days. As we left Jordan's office, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not just for revenge, but for a future that didn't involve walking on eggshells around my wife's ambitions and lies. There's one more thing, Isla said as we stood on the sidewalk outside the law firm. Jasper doesn't know about the backup files yet. He thinks the only evidence we have is what I showed the investors. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we give him a chance to make this even worse for himself. The final act began on a Thursday evening at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Jasper had managed to secure a last-minute venue for what he was calling a company pivot presentation, a desperate attempt to salvage his startup by repositioning it as a transparency-focused travel platform. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Isla had learned about the event through Jasper's assistant, who was apparently too stressed about her own job security to question why the boss's wife wanted details about his schedule. The presentation was being live-streamed to potential investors, with local tech reporters in attendance. He's going to announce Isla as his new head of communications, Isla told me as we sat in my car outside the hotel. Apparently, her experience with crisis management makes her the perfect person to lead their rebranding effort. I almost laughed. He's hiring his mistress to manage his reputation crisis? It gets better. According to the press release, they're positioning their affair as a love story that demonstrates authentic human connection in the digital age. Now I did laugh, long and hard. They're trying to monetize their betrayal. Jasper always was good at spinning disasters into opportunities. Isla checked her watch. The presentation starts in 20 minutes. Are you ready? I patted the laptop bag beside me, which contained a portable projector, wireless presenter remote, and a USB drive loaded with everything we'd collected over the past 2 weeks. Let's give them the transparency they're promising. The hotel's grand ballroom was set up for a typical tech presentation, stage with large projection screen, rows of chairs filled with investors and reporters, the kind of ambient lighting that made everyone look either very important or very tired. Jasper stood at the podium in his best suit, radiating the kind of confidence that only came from complete delusion. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. I want to talk to you about authenticity, about transparency, and about the power of human connection in an increasingly digital world. Isla and I had positioned ourselves in the back of the room, near the AV control booth. The hotel's tech staff was too busy managing the live stream to notice two more people with official-looking badges. 3 months ago, I made a decision that some might call controversial, Jasper continued. I chose to follow my heart, even though it meant acknowledging that my marriage had become a business partnership rather than a romantic one. I saw several reporters lean forward, sensing a story. In the front row, Isla sat with perfect posture, her expression carefully neutral. She was wearing a new dress, something expensive that I was pretty sure I'd helped pay for through our joint credit card. Tonight, I'm proud to introduce someone who embodies everything our new company stands for. Someone who understands that authentic relationships require courage, honesty, and the willingness to embrace change. This was our cue. While Jasper gestured toward Isla, I quietly connected my laptop to the room's projection system. Years of setting up equipment for corporate events had taught me that most AV systems used standard connections, and most presenters never bothered to secure their wireless networks. Please welcome our new head of communications, Isla Corvan. Isla stood and walked toward the stage, her smile radiant under the spotlights. She looked like she was walking toward her future, toward vindication, toward a happy ending that would prove all the pain and betrayal had been worth it. Instead, she was walking toward the most public humiliation of her life. I pressed a button on my remote, and the projection screen behind Jasper flickered. Instead of his carefully crafted presentation slides, the audience was now looking at a WhatsApp conversation between Jasper and Isla. Dean's getting suspicious. We need to be more careful. Don't worry about Dean. He's too busy with his little videos to notice anything. I feel terrible lying to him, but I can't give this up, not when we're so close to being together. The room went silent. Jasper spun around to look at the screen, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and horror. Isla froze halfway to the stage, her perfect smile cracking. "What?" Jasper started to say, but I clicked to the next slide. Credit card statements showing charges for jewelry, expensive dinners, and luxury hotel rooms. All charged to company accounts, all dated during the time Jasper claimed to be conducting business meetings with his PR consultant. "Turn it off," Jasper said to someone in the AV booth, but I had already moved to the next piece of evidence. Photos from the Maldives trip. Not the carefully composed business shots Isla had posted on her professional social media, but the intimate, romantic images that had been syncing to our shared cloud account. Jasper's hand on Isla's back, Isla wearing lingerie in what was clearly a resort bedroom, the two of them kissing on a private beach at sunset. Someone in the audience gasped. I heard the rapid clicking of camera shutters as reporters documented the moment. The live stream was still running, broadcasting everything to hundreds of remote viewers. "This is a private matter," Jasper said, his voice cracking. He was trying to maintain his composure, but sweat was visible on his forehead under the stage lights. "Is it?" I called out from the back of the room, standing up so everyone could see me. "Because according to your company's ethics policy, using corporate resources for personal relationships is very much a public matter." All eyes turned to me. I felt the weight of their attention, the cameras, the live stream audience, and for the first time in months, I felt completely in control. "My name is Dean Callix," I said, walking down the center aisle toward the stage. "I'm Isla's husband, or rather, I was her husband, until she decided that her career was more important than our marriage vows." Isla found her voice. "Dean, please. This isn't the place." "Isn't it?" I gestured toward the projection screen, which was now displaying a timeline of their affair overlaid with Jasper's public statements about business ethics and corporate responsibility. You wanted transparency. You wanted authenticity. Here it is. I reached the stage and climbed the steps, ignoring Jasper's attempts to block my path. The wireless microphone was still active, broadcasting my words to the entire room and the livestream audience. For 4 months, these two people lied to their spouses, their employers, and their investors. They used company funds to finance their affair. They violated professional ethics codes and employment contracts. And tonight, they had the audacity to stand in front of you and claim it was all about authentic human connection. The room was completely silent except for the continued clicking of cameras. I could see reporters frantically typing on their phones, probably filing stories in real time. But here's the thing about authenticity, I continued, looking directly at Isla. It requires honesty, and honesty is something these two people know nothing about. I clicked the remote one final time. The screen now displayed a simple message. The last broadcast, a true story of betrayal, consequences, and justice. Below it was a QR code linking to a website Isla and I had created, containing all the evidence we'd gathered, along with documentation of how Jasper and Isla had violated their professional and legal obligations. Everything you need to know is right there, I said, pointing to the screen. Bank records, communications, timeline of events, and legal documentation. Full transparency, just like you promised. Jasper made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. This is harassment, corporate espionage. I'll have you arrested. For what? Ilara's voice cut through his bluster as she joined me on stage. For documenting my husband's misuse of company funds? For providing evidence of employment contract violations to the relevant authorities? For exercising my legal right to 50% of marital assets that were fraudulently concealed? She pulled out a thick envelope and handed it to Jasper in full view of the cameras. Divorce papers, she announced, along with asset freeze orders, restraining orders, and a formal complaint to the Securities and Exchange Commission regarding your misrepresentation of company finances to potential investors. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions, investors headed for the exits, and hotel security finally realized they had a situation on their hands. But it was too late to contain the story. The live stream had captured everything, and social media was already exploding with clips and commentary. I looked at Isla one final time. She was crying now, her perfect makeup running down her cheeks, her career and reputation in ruins. Part of me felt sorry for her. The part that remembered 7 years of marriage, shared dreams, quiet Sunday mornings before everything went wrong. But mostly, I felt free. "Dean," she said, reaching toward me. "Please, we can fix this. We can—" "No," I said simply. "We can't. You made your choice in the Maldives. I made mine tonight." I walked off the stage, through the chaos of shouting reporters and confused investors, and out into the Seattle night. Behind me, I could hear Jasper still trying to explain, still trying to spin the disaster into something manageable. But there was no spinning this, no PR strategy that could undo what had just happened, no way to put the truth back in the box. My phone was already buzzing with calls and messages, reporters wanting interviews, friends who'd seen the live stream, my lawyer confirming that everything had gone according to plan. I ignored them all and walked to my car, where I sat for a moment in the quiet darkness, processing what I'd just done. Tomorrow, Isla and Jasper would wake up to a world where everyone knew exactly who they were and what they'd done. Their careers were over, their reputations destroyed, their relationship poisoned by the very public nature of its exposure. I would wake up to divorce papers, a clean slate, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice actually prevails. I started the car and drove home through the empty streets of Seattle, past the coffee shops where Ilara and I had planned our revenge, past the hotel where it had all ended, past the life I was leaving behind. At a red light, I pulled out my phone and deleted Isla's contact information, our shared photo albums, and every digital connection that tied me to the woman who had betrayed me. The light turned green, and I drove toward whatever came next, finally free from the weight of other people's lies.